Boker Tov on this 9/11. I want to share a perspective and think a little bit out loud like I do on these videos. So I have a friend who experienced 9/11 from the inside, wrote several books, best-selling New York Times books. I think even a movie was made out of one of them. Um, and it changed this person's life in a dramatic way, as you might imagine. One lives with PTSD from that experience for the rest of their life. So I remember reading their book and in speaking to them, one of the things that struck me the most was her description of, besides the carnage, which is just it was unimaginable inside carnage. I mean, we see it from the outside in the flames. We see people maybe leaping to their death to get out of the flames, but um, there was not film crews inside here, and I don't think people were stopping to take any pictures anyway. So you have personal descriptions, and hers is extremely vivid. Like I said, books were made out of this, um, and it's hard to hard for anybody to even imagine it until they hear a firsthand description. In any event, what struck me most, aside from the absolute carnage, fear, panic, chaos, um, everything of this tragic time inside. They didn't know what happened. They didn't know a plane hit their building. They just knew all of a sudden they were in flames, and the thunderous sounds that the building was making and the screams. Um, but what struck me most, I think, about the description of the experience was in trying to escape the tower and the decisions that were made to try to get out. And this person will testify that the only reason they got out is that Yeshua took them by the hand and walked them out of the building. As they were walking, as she was leaving the building, she was going down the stairs. Blood is pouring everywhere. As body parts she's stepping over. People are walking around like the apocalypse. Some are just screaming and crying and frozen in fear. But as this crowd is making its way down the stairs, the firemen are coming the other way. And when she looked in the eyes of the firemen, it was as though they were walking. They knew they were walking to their death. It's not as though she really believed they knew they would never make it out. And the looks on their faces, as far as she was concerned, they were all seeing God. The eyes in their face, it was surreal. And so I wanted to relate this to something about the soul. It's sort of a question I have in my mind. There's 5 levels of the soul. The nefesh, which is sort of the vital spirit. It means neck or throat, and what it essentially it's the desire to stay alive, you might say. And then you have rauch or raush, which is kind of the whole range of the human emotion, intellect, kind of that whole wider range of life. You have the neshama, which is generally considered the soul, sort of the divine humanness that we have. You have chaya, which is this idea to be restored, to be given life, to give life, kind of a restore, I think, to your essential self. Maybe you'd say trying to get to a righteous level. And then you have this 5th level of the soul, which is called yachita, which is unity. And it's very rare for anybody to ever reach this level in the elevation of their soul through prayer and everything else. But when they get there, there's this unity with God, and the indication of this unity is the person will willingly lay down their life for God. Okay, who has done this? Well, you could think of martyrs, you could think of Moses, you could think of Jesus, Yeshua. But this notion is that you're so unified with God that you're willing to die for a righteousness. Well, you think about these firemen and policemen and women climbing the building, knowing they're going to their death, and that look in their eye. I can't help wonder if at that very moment, no matter what their life had been, at that very moment, if they were sort of in a state of unity with God, uh, because they were performing an act that would only be associated with Echida. And so does that act sort of spontaneously trigger that notion of unity. Rabbi Akiva, when he was being martyred with the 10 martyrs, when they were burning him and horrible, horrible way they were killing him, he had this expression, and the Romans were looking at him, and they couldn't understand it because it looked like he was smiling. It looked like he was joyful, and he was, because at that moment he was giving his life to God, and he was feeling a sense of joy, a sense that he was achieving something he'd always wanted to achieve. So that's my thought on 9/11 about those brave souls.